Scott Berke from Microbe Life is here. All this stuff. We've been talking a little bit. This is some amazing stuff. I knew it was good stuff before, but something else he's going to tell us all about it. And then after we get done with all that, we got some giveaways. We're doing the Nectar Fam sample kits with one of every Nectar Fam product. As you can see, they're not all here yet. We're going to give you an IOU for the ones that are not here if you win, because I didn't get them yet because somebody else didn't ship them out.
Yep.
So, but they shall be here soon. Scott, what do you got going here?
No, not much.
So Carl tells me the main thing, that they're all interesting stuff,
Right.
but the main thing is the microbial. What does it do? How does it work?
So the Photo Plus is definitely the anchor. And just so you know, I assume all of you are more or less local, but Photosynthesis Plus O, you'll sometimes hear people talk about Plus C, Plus OK, just Photosynthesis Plus. They're all the same. The only difference is the label. Certain states have specific requirements for labeling. So Plus O is the Oregon approved label. There's no difference than Plus C that's sold in California or the regular Photosynthesis Plus that's sold everywhere else. Contents are all the same. It's only the labels that are different. And this is definitely the anchor of the line, the Photosynthesis Plus. It's all beneficial bacteria. There's some mycorrhiza in there. But we work with some pretty unique classes of bacteria. There's a little video of the lab up there. That's our lab in Florida, where all this is produced. It's a pretty intensive fermentation process for a bottle. Every one of these is produced in the bottle. It's grown in the bottle that we ship it in. So whether it's a little 4-ounce sample bottle or a 275-gallon tote, it's all made right in the container. So it's sealed and it stays that way until it's ready to use. That helps keep it, a shelf life of multiple years. Sealed. Once it's open, it's about a year. What happens is the lab, we have DNA sequencers, we do all kinds of real quality control testing to make sure that all the strains of bacteria we want in here, there's a lot of bacteria in here, are there and nothing snuck in, there's no contamination. So we have real tight controls on it. Our production lines are real, sanitary lines. It's really, a lot goes into quality control to make sure the product is exactly what we want it to be. So what you have with Photo Plus is, we call it a consortium. There's a lot of different strains of bacteria in here. Some that you'll find in other products on the market that have been around a long time, but what really sets it apart is there's 2 strains of photosynthetic bacteria. It's what gives it that color, and if you've ever opened a bottle, it's what gives it that lovely smell that we like so much. And
Can you use that to barbecue with?
you can use it. You can use it as marinade after. But the photosynthetic bacteria, we were doing shots of it this morning.
Yeah, I'm still a little fuzzy.
Yeah. The photosynthetic bacteria is really the key because it does a lot for the plant. So photosynthetic bacteria is better at using light for photosynthesis than a plant. It's open to a much broader spectrum of light, in fact, almost the entire spectrum of light. So when you apply it to a plant, it'll actually, whether you foliar spray it or water it in, it'll get up into the leaf, it'll get attached to the chloroplast, and actually passes that light collecting ability onto the plant. So the plant becomes a better photocollector. It cycles more carbon, so we can get more CO2 into carbohydrates. It really cranks out plant sugars. Bacteria in here will fix nitrogen at the foliar, not just the root. So, you think about it, the atmosphere is very high content of nitrogen, and most plants, most bacteria that fix nitrogen can't use it out of the air. They can only take it out of the ground. This will actually fix nitrogen out of the air. So it helps provide more fertilizer to the plant right from the environment. So, especially if you're growing outdoors where it's, you don't want to keep pumping nitrogen into the ground and into the ground. So you can cut back on your nitrogen inputs. It improves the plant biology in other ways as well. So you have better photosynthesis, better carbon cycling. It's fixing carbon and nitrogen from the air. It's got bacteria in it that open up the internal structures of the plant so that nutrient moves through the system of the plant, the circulatory system of the plant better. It'll build biofilms around the roots that help protect the roots, help hold water and nutrient in the root zone where it's needed. They help fight off pathogenic bacteria. They'll outcompete a lot of pathogens. Whether you're growing in soil or cocoa, whatever your growth media, the bacteria will build biofilms through your growth media that create structure and aerate the soil or the growth media, and again hold that water and nutrient there. So if you're growing outdoors in soil, everything's just not going straight into the ground. It's being held where it can be used longer. So you're getting more use from what you're doing. You're wasting a lot less. But it also has chemotrophic bacteria that process fertilizer, both organic and inorganic, into a form the plant can more readily absorb. So it makes it easier to take in that nutrient. So you actually use more of what you put in, so you waste less when you're not just throwing a lot of it out. It's not going into the ground. You're not throwing it out when you change out water in a reservoir. You're getting a lot more from what you do. So plants become more efficient. So you balance the biology. Think of it like probiotics in a person, right? So if you don't have the right biology in your body, you don't digest your food properly, you don't uptake nutrient properly. This does that for a plant. It balances the biology inside the plant with what's going on outside the plant. So the whole system works together and they can use more of that nutrient. So you get better growth, you get higher yields, you get better flavor, more potency. You get just a stronger, more vigorous plant. So they're a little more naturally disease resistant. The list of benefits is really, as long as your arm, it's really.
So if you're working with this, when you you're with this in veg, when you get to your flowering stage, would you be using the enhancer, or how would that work?
Yeah, so we actually have, we have a dosage chart. It's just sort of a general guideline. You don't have to stick to that. A lot of people basically come up with their own method of using it. But essentially, you can use the Photo Plus from seed all the way to flush with no problem. You'll get benefits the whole time. There's some people that stop earlier, and then you can add other stuff on top of it. So the other products, and I'll mention, we now have an OMRI label for the Photosynthesis Plus as well. The way they work, the contents for the most part are the same. We just had to make a few changes to some of the stuff we put in the bottle, source them from OMRI sources to get the OMRI stamp. So it's a little bit more expensive, but if you really want that OMRI stamp on your bottle, it's available.
So if you were doing synthetic versus doing the more natural, like a nectar for the gods or something like that, would your dosings and things be different, or how would that?
No, dosage stays the same. Our minimum recommended dosage is 1 to 2 ounces per 5 gallons. What we really would like to see is everybody using it about 1 ounce per gallon. And when we first launched the product, this is 5 years ago now, roughly, and we said 1 ounce per gallon, people went, "Oh my God, 1 ounce per gallon! I'm using 10,000 gallons of water." Right? And it's not. It's not ridiculously expensive. I mean, a gallon, is $80 or something. So we backed off to the minimum dosage, which is 1 to 2 ounces per 5 gallons of water. But now more and more people say to us, "I'm using that stuff at 1 ounce per gallon," which when we recommended it was a problem.
So probably a little different too if you're using 5 gallons versus if you got a 5,000 gallon tank, you could probably use less in there. You want more in your smaller amount.
I mean, bacteria reproduces. It's just a matter of how quick things work and the overall benefit. Certainly, at a higher dosage, you'll get a little bit more. I want to say a little bit more disease resistance. You'll see a little bit more of a consistent long-term benefit because you're not washing stuff out every time you change it.
Too much problem? You use too much of it?
No, you really can't overuse it. So the only problem with, you could put like this whole bottle straight onto a plant. You're not going to hurt anything. You're going to waste some bacteria. You have to be, it's going to die off, but it won't hurt anything. So, we always recommend play with it. With whatever you're using. It's intended to work with any nutrient program. Again, it'll work with inorganics. It'll break down those salts. So organic or inorganic, but play with it and see what works best for you, where you get dial it into where you get your best results.
Start out with a foiler with that, right?
What's that?
You start with a foiler and then go in.
You don't have to. Like there's some people that there's some people that the thought of a foliar is bad. Yeah, never do a foliar. So we recommended 2 ways. Either just do it as a drench, do it alternate drench foliar. But no, you can go straight to watering or start with a foliar.
When I mix that stuff up, I use a 55-gallon drum. How long can it sit after you mix it?
I mean, well, we recommend keeping it in the original container as long as possible. Mainly because that stuff that you see floating around in there, that's what it's eating in the bottle. If you pour it out of the bottle and you don't get enough of that in, which is hard to do, the bacteria will start to die off until it's put into the environment where it needs to go. I've been playing around with it in different types of sprayers at home, and it seems to be fine a week, even longer, once it's mixed. But the idea is use it as close to mix. Don't leave it sit too long. And certainly, it's going to be better if it's sealed in that container. If it's open to the air,
Right, all right.
because that smell is actually part of what helps keep
I
it
love that
preserved.
So you're saying
It's like
if you were to
Yellowstone.
do like hydroponics, the benefits would last roughly a week?
Well, it's a little different because it's in application. So once you put it into the system and it's in the growth media, it's in the plant, it's on the sides of the reservoir, it's in there. So that's a little different. It's in its environment and it's doing its job, so it'll keep working. But if you were to mix it and sit it on the side and not use it for a week, it's not going to be quite as good. And again, that's going to vary. If you can keep it in a closed container, if you pre-mix, if you have a bigger container and you mix like 5 gallons up, and you're going to use it the next day or the next few days, that's fine. Try and keep it in sealed because that's better. But yeah, it'll be fine. Once it's in the system, you're good. We recommend in that case in a hydroponic system, every time you change out your solution, put more in. But yeah, once it's in the environment, as long as it has food, it'll keep working. And one thing that's really important, we're going to skip over, so dechlorinate your water. Right? So if your water has chlorine or chloramine in it, you're killing the bacteria. So always dechlorinate the water. If you're not filtering it first to take out chlorine, chloramine, it's real easy. Dechlorinator, just pour a little in, and it'll knock out the chlorine and chloramine pretty instantly. So time you put the cap back on and you're ready to go, the water's safe for the bacteria.
Well, guys running RO systems.
Yeah, so yeah, if you're not running RO, if you're running RO, even a good amount of carbon, will take that out. But yeah, if you're not pre-filtering your water, you definitely need to get the chlorine out.
Would you say that for everything, not just for doing this?
I say it's a good idea anyway to get the chlorine out. Yeah, chlorine. That'll do chlorine and chloramine. So.
And then a lot of people say, well, just let the water sit.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. If you have just chlorine in your water and you let the water sit out for a day or two, especially if you drop an air stone in it, that chlorine will gas off. Chloramine does not. Right? So chloramine, which most municipalities use now, is chlorine and ammonia molecules bonded together. And it sticks around longer. Just leaving it sit out or bubbling it isn't necessarily going to get rid of that. So if you're not filtering it out, you definitely want to use something to break it. And with chloramine, when you knock out the chlorine, it'll leave behind some ammonia, but typically it's not going to be an issue.
So you got the sample kit here that you guys do.
Yes.
So there's 4 things in there. How do they all 4 fit together? Why do I need all 4? What do they do?
So we talked about the bacteria. That's the main product, right? The Photo Plus. Nourish is our humic product. It's humic and fulvic. It's not processed coal, it's not leonardite, it's natural compost. So it's what's called rare earth. It's marine compost, marine plant and animal matter, ancient cypress. So it's a real rich source of cypress lignin and organic carbon. It's got 72 elements in it. It's about 6% fulvic acid. And it's all water soluble and bioavailable to the plant. So it's a real nice, rich, organic humic and fulvic. And it's a good supplement. It helps with nutrient uptake. It helps with water retention. The carbon, all that, is good cell structure material. Cypress lignin all helps with bacterial growth and plant cell structure. So if you're looking for a good humic, this is an excellent product. So together you've got kind of those. You can, and again, this you can use through pretty much your entire grow. Some people, they want the humic, some don't. But you can use them together. The other 2 products in the sample kit, Root Dip. So Root Dip has some of the Photo Plus, it's got some humic and fulvic, it's got additional strains of bacteria in there that stimulate root production. So there's no rooting hormone in there, there's no chemicals in there, but you can use it for popping seeds, you can use it for clones, you can use it early on just to build up a nice root mass, and it's great as a soak before you transplant. You soak the roots before you transplant, prevent root shock. In fact, that was its original intent, was as a root soak to help prevent root shock. It has, basically what happens is those additional strains of bacteria in here produce enzymes and amino acids and things that stimulate the plant to actually grow more roots.
So even for with a clone to produce the roots?
Oh yeah, you can use it, guys use it a lot in aerocloners, things like that. So yeah, anything like that.
Anytime you transplant, good idea to
Always a good idea to soak, yeah, you won't get the dye off.
You can also foliar spray with it.
You can foliar spray with it, yeah. In fact, somebody just the other day sent us some information. I guess they had, they did a whole foliar spray on their grow, and they said the plants look fantastic.
I personally use that until I transfer to bloom. I know most people say it don't, but I personally feel I see a better microbial balance in my soil, a healthy life form. And I use that along with everything else to help. Because essentially in veg, you're still producing roots.
Yeah, and there's no reason not to. We try not to say to somebody, you got to use all these, and people start to, because again, we're not a fertilizer program, and somewhere in there you're using some sort of a nutrient program. But we usually recommend this for the first couple of weeks, and then switch to the yield enhancer. And really, the only difference is this is they start out both again with Photo Plus and some humic and fulvic, but there's some additional strains of bacteria in here that just help push blooming, flowering. So usually transition from one to the other, but it's funny, depending on where you go, there's some people that'll say, oh, this is the combination right here. And then you go somewhere else and they go, oh, this is the combination right here. And so I always say, that's why I was reluctant to actually, produce this usage chart. Because I said, I talked to 12 growers and I say, how do you use the product? And I get 14 different recipes.
It's a guideline, it's not a recipe,
Right, so it's just a general
guideline.
guideline. Right. So together, they all work really well together. Or just, we tell people all the time, if you want a place to start, just add this to whatever you're doing now, and you'll see the difference. And typically, you can cut back on your inputs because the plant becomes so much more efficient, and it uses so more of what you put in. You don't need to put as much in. You can back off. I need 20%, 30%.
Now, to my understanding, I was gonna say, to my understanding, Nourish is the only one you don't want to fully feed with.
Right, because it's a pretty concentrated humic. We don't recommend. I mean, obviously, if you diluted it down enough, but
right.
Yeah, we just don't recommend it on that one. We'd be more careful with that as a foliar.
We've gotten down to the last couple servings, if you will, in a 2.5 gallon of the photo and lost its scent.
That's okay.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah, what happens is, so that smell. We'll talk about the smell. It's kind of an important part of the process. So when I mentioned that every one of these bottles is grown individually, right? So it goes into the bottle. We put in the filtered water. We put in the growth media. Put in all the strains of bacteria. And it goes into a grow room. It goes into a room under seriously intense light. And you get a tan in there. And it sits under that light for 6 days. And during that time, the bacteria, the photosynthetic bacteria becomes active and the whole thing kind of meshes together. But it's sealed in that bottle. And when it's sealed in the bottle, it uses up what little oxygen is in there, and the bottle becomes anaerobic. And when it goes anaerobic, those photosynthetics have the ability to feed on sulfur as a source of carbon. So basically, that's part of its food. And so in that bottle, it's feeding on that byproduct is hydrogen sulfide. That's what you smell when you open it. And the hydrogen sulfide, as it builds up in the bottle, actually works kind of like a sedative and slows down the life cycle. So there's a whole ecosystem in this bottle, and the bacteria is in constant going through its whole life cycle over and over again. But we managed to slow it down by trapping the gas in there. And that's why it'll sit for years unopened.
The more you open it, the more.
Right, once you break the seal, it gases off. You can't close it the way it was closed at the factory, and you have more of a gap to fill up. So it has to go through the oxygen, and then it has to produce. So that's why it starts to go down. So yeah, if you go through and there's no smell, but it still kind of has some color to it, you're good, no problem at all. In fact, occasionally you might get one where the seal blew for some reason, and you open it up, it's got no smell, but if you're going to be using it within the next couple of months, you're good anyway. If you get a bottle that's gray, I mean like really gray, looks like gray sludge, or it smells like burnt rubber, which is kind of a weird thing to think about, it's for some reason gone bad. But other than that, no smell, not a problem, really strong smell as long as it's the right smell.
It's got a pretty good shelf life.
Yeah.
The joke I won from Carl on the contest a while back in the radar, he said, it's outlasted me quite some time.
I had some bottles.
Still working.
Yeah, I pulled a couple bottles out of my garage that I kind of forgot were there. They've been sitting there for like 4 years. And I live in Florida, it's like 98 degrees in my garage. It's like an oven. And I opened them up and they still smelled, they still had the color. I use it on my fruit trees and stuff. So.
What if you sealed that up with, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but those wine sealers that it pulls the air out?
I thought those inject nitrogen, but
Well, there's that too.
There's
Yeah,
that
but-
kind too, but.
yeah, I mean, I never thought about it, but that'd probably be a good way to, as long as it seals it tight after it does that. You'd probably be good, yeah. Be a good option, you know, so again, there's a good mixture, a good combination to how you can use it. We always recommend play with it, you know, experiment with it, figure out what works best for what you're using, what your system is. But you'll see the benefits, and with the Photo Plus, you can see a difference in plants, and sometimes as little as a couple hours, if not definitely, usually overnight, you'll see a difference.
Oh, definitely. They'll be praying.
Yeah.
After
Especially
foliar.
foliar feeds.
They love the foliar. Yes. Some people say no, but
So is that it, I guess? 30 more
I
questions?
see one that's not here that doesn't come in the sample. I want to put a little spotlight on it. Your all-in-one my wife uses around the house.
Yeah,
Just, you know,
We're not
give you
supposed to-
guys a little plug.
we're not supposed to talk about that in Oregon, it's not. All-in-one vitamins, amino acids, which actually have a pretty good following, they're not allowed to, we're not allowed to sell them here. It's an Oregon thing, actually California probably too.
Yeah, she had one from a while back. She's like, I love this stuff. I'm like, okay, well.
Yeah, we've actually come across it.
Smuggle it across.
I can do it, yeah. I just gotta go back home and tell you.
Yeah, but the all-in-one is a micronutrient supplement. It's a good in between. You know, you're replacing a lot of those micronutrients that get pulled out of the humates in your soil early on. And the vitamins, amino acids is just, you know, it's just that. It's vitamins, amino acids. It's good for, and everything is for. And that's what we call this our hydroponics line. Everything's labeled for soil, for aquaponics, for
I
hydroponics.
use the Coco religiously. I don't mess with them. They really, it's great stuff.
Yeah, and the vitamins, amino acids is good again for both plants and there's some stuff in there for fish. If you're doing aquaponics, you know, people are telling us, oh, you know, we use that where it's taking so much more calcium and magnesium.
All people gotta do is they don't believe it, get one of them sample kits with everything in there. Everything, the trigger, the mammoth pea, the Dr. Roots, your guys' photosynthesis, the nectarine. It's a recipe for success right there. No
Yeah,
matter
and
which
you know,
way you
it's-
mix those bottles together, you're gonna formulate some success. Try it.
It's funny because people say all the time, they'll mention other products like Mammoth or something like that, and they say, oh, you know, aren't they a competitor? I say, no, they're not. Actually, all these things kind of fit together like a puzzle.
Everything put
Yeah.
together and try it.
What is the difference between vitamins and amino and all-in-one?
Well, all-in-one is micronutrients, so it's got like magnesium and calcium and, you know, iron in small amounts and
Iron.
all of that kind of stuff.
Okay.
You know, a little bit of iron. It's not like an iron supplement, but it's just like a general micronutrient supplement. Vitamins, amino acids is vitamins, amino acids. So it's all the different vitamins that, again, that's intended really for fish and for plants. So it's got some stuff in that's really more for fish. It won't hurt if you don't have fish. And the amino acids help with the uptake of nutrient as well. All that stuff just helps the plants function more. And, you know, amino acids are big part of cell structure development.
Questions?
Can you spread some light on those foliar sprays out there?
Oh, these, yeah, actually, I forget these are here. So the hose end sprayers, there's different combinations there of humates and bacteria that we put together for our outdoor use. For, you know, one of these will do roughly 6,000 square feet. And some of them are more targeted. Some are for like flowering plants. Some are for grass and sod. We have a thatch remover, but they're, you know, hose end. Go outside, spray down your yard. They're not quite as,
So one bottle does 6,000 square feet?
about 6,000 square feet.
Unless
Unless you stand in one spot.
Yeah,
if you stand,
You're standing in one spot.
yeah, if we stand here like this, it's going to go about 6 square feet.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, they're intended to do
You
roughly
guys with a
6,000.
pretty big canopy that you get out there and, you know, do some.
Yeah, I use it sometimes on my trees. I'll usually actually the root dip, the foliar spray root dip on my trees.
I used that stuff on my apple tree and mammoth. Holy cow, how many?
We went from like a bushel of apples to 5 bushels of apples on this tiny
Wow.
little. in 1 year.
it's stupid.
In 1 year.
That
The
tree just
difference
went
was-
crazy.
I feel like you could just have like a little yard that you could have a whole farm in a yard with all these kind of
Well,
things.
just like,
you know,
I'm sure
yeah.
you've seen.
This is true.
We're growing tomatoes, and so we're using it on our tomatoes, and our tomato stalks are like this big around, it's
They're 80 inches
80
tall.
inches tall, our tomatoes.
You're gonna be able to go find that giant pretty soon.
Yeah. Oh.
Remind me, I'll show you a picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a guava tree I planted a year ago, and in a year, I can't believe how big that thing is already. And it's not growing tall, it's growing out. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
it surprised me. I mean, they're growing.
Even my arborvitae's
Yeah, really
off like
anything.
a rocket ship.
I use the photo, I'm sorry.
I'm wondering if you know what the ratio is on the sprayers as far as product per gallon of water that comes out. Because I reuse those sprayers, I love those sprayers. And so,
I don't, I mean, I can certainly find that out for you, but I don't offhand know what it is, but I'm sure somebody does.
Yeah. It lasts. If you want to cover a large area in a quick amount of time, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, although they can be sometimes a little difficult to open to refill.
I figured it out.
He's got tools.
I got a trick.
You might want to share that online sometime.
Do a video. So Carl tells me you have not covered this sufficiently.
I thought we did.
I thought so too, but Carl says no.
He was sleeping in the corner.
Look at he's over there just playing on his phone.
Yes.
He's busy Instagramming over there.
Chlorine bad, this fixes it, right?
Yeah, chlorine bad, this make it good, and that pretty much covers it.
So if you have city water, use that.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Even in some well waters, like I had to switch from my well water because of the conditions where I live, cranberry bogs, etc. Heavy iron supplements. Took me a long time to figure out. Flipped over to RO water, which made a big difference. But then I incorporated, like I started mentioning before when I cut Nick off, I started using photo, mainly incorporated pretty heavily this last time through veg foliar spray and some root drainage going into flower. And I got the luscious greenest one, the best one in a while. So nice canopy, definitely.
So you were saying that the chlorine's bonded with ammonia?
That's chloramine, yeah. Chloramine.
Okay, so if you let your water sit out, the
Chlorine will usually gas off, chloramine usually sticks around.
Eugene doesn't have chloramine, they only use chlorine.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty good. Most places,
For anybody who has
Yeah.
Eugene.
yeah, most places I go now, it's chloramine, so.
Oh, yeah. See, we call these skeeters here, not mosquitoes, yeah.
Skeeters.
But mosquito control. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, so we have a product which you may already be familiar with. It's under a different brand name. So Microbe Life is the name we use for our pond products, our water gardening products. So BMC, biological mosquito control. It's EPA registered as a pesticide for mosquitoes. But it works great on fungus gnats, whiteflies,
That's
midges.
the number one recommendation.
Yeah.
Recommendation. I'm obviously.
Yeah, and it's all natural. It's a beneficial bacteria.
That's good for.
You can put it in a horse trough. You can put it in the dog's bowl. I mean, everything. It's fine.
Yeah,
But the larvae ingest it. And it kills them from the
A
inside.
little bit goes a long way still.
It does.
It goes a really long ways by the coverage amount that you can do. I think you get the small.
Well, back to that water conditioner, what does that do to your pH?
Nothing. I mean, this in itself is pH neutral. You know.
Does it add parts per million?
What was that?
Does it add part per million to?
There's an ingredient in there that's salt based, but it's not. It's going to be very little. Very little. You don't need a lot to go. Like you said, a little of this will also go a long way.
Yeah, that thing's not so long.
Yeah, and I had another something I was going to tell you about when you just talked about the
pH.
The pH. So with your water, with the pH, when your water first comes out of the tap, don't trust that pH. You know that, right? Yeah. Because there can be dissolved oxygen in it. There can be dissolved CO2 in it. So you get one reading that comes out of the tap, and the next day your pH is completely different. Yeah. Yeah. So always, in order to really know where you're going to be, let it sit for a day. Yeah.
I've noticed that our local water has a variance from wintertime to summertime as well on the pH.
That's because colder water more oxygen, warmer water less oxygen.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's good enough.
That's going to shift your pH.
Internet questions, Carl?
what other brands of products would this compete with? As far as nutrients, other beneficial?
Well, these aren't nutrients, so they're really not competing with a nutrient line. And as we said before, they're really designed, these core products are designed to work with whatever nutrient program you're currently using, and you'll get added benefit. You know, if you look at, it's not on the front of that one, but on here, like the NPK is 0.5, 0.09. You know, we put it on there, but it's really not a nutrient. Right, so it's intended to work with a nutrient program. So we're not competing with a nutrient program. In terms of other beneficials, you know, there's probably a lot that it competes with. I would say there's nothing that directly competes with this because we're the only ones with the photosynthetics. But going the other way, there's going to be some crossover probably in the bacillus strains, some of the other stuff that's in there that you'll find in other products. But off the top of my head, you know, I don't want to say every single one of them, but you know, compare products, and there's probably some stuff you don't need anymore for using this.
Best applications when running it with compost teas. Altogether, 1 of 4. What's your recommendation?
Altogether, 1 of 4?
If they were, well, for instance, Scott, they wanted.
Oh, the products you're talking about.
Right.
So most people, all right, so an important thing to know is if you're using the Photo Plus in a compost tea, add it at the end. Don't bubble it all the way through, because there's some strains in here you're going to lose. So add it at the end before you use it. Don't bubble it. There are people that do and say, wow, it works great, but it's really going to be better if you don't. Do you need all 4? No, absolutely not. And depending on what you're making your compost tea out of, that's going to vary. You know, you probably don't need to add a lot of humic, I'm going to guess, to your tea, depending on what you're starting with. But we do have a lot of people that will use, you know, some of them just use the yield enhancer, some just the root dip, some the Photo Plus, and there's a lot of different ways to use it. A lot, you know, to add to your compost tea. Me personally, if I'm doing some teas, I just use I add some of the Photo Plus and I add some fish hydrosylate, and that's really about it. A little bit of kelp, and you know, go with a packaged tea bag.
A greater understanding of a chloramine over chlorine. Thought they were the same things, but they truly are 2 different entities?
Yes. So chlorine, again, is just chlorine. Chloramine is chlorine bonded to ammonia. So it's more stable as a disinfectant. You know, water companies have been using it for a long time. Chlorine is easier to remove. Chloramine, because it's bonded to the ammonia, you have to break that bond. It's going to leave behind some ammonia. But yeah, they are not the same thing. Chloramine will hang in there longer than chlorine will.
How is it that our bacteria actually creates more light illumination for the plant?
So it doesn't create more light illumination. It enables the plant to collect more light. So the bacteria. What's that?
It opens the cells, or the.
Well, there's a little bit of that too, but really the bacteria itself, right? So you have, I don't know if you can see this on here. You have. This one. You know, so you have. I know you can't see this from there, but you can look at the catalog, or you can look up here.
I can't see it from here.
Right, you've got. You know, it's kind of silly to say here. Look at. Here it is, right here. Thanks. It's 2 different wavelengths, and it allows the plant to use more of that available light. So plants are limited by chlorophyll to what they can absorb and what they reject. This actually enables them to collect more.
Opens the filter.
Becomes a better photocollector, yeah. Expands out the amount of the spectrum of light the plant can actually absorb.
So getting back to the mosquito BT. I'm going to be going south, and there's midgeons there.
Yeah.
Okay, now, is it effective for those as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll work for that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and pretty much the same directions for the mosquito control.
Okay.
Any one of them you would recommend to use all the way through flush? I know you're talking about the photo.
Yeah, to me the photo is the best thing to use all the way through. You can use the photo. I mean, if you were using the photo, the Nourish, and the fruit and veg, you could use all 3 of them all the way to flush. you know, it's not gonna hurt anything, you probably see the benefits from it, but usually you're not using all of them, but you can, yeah. That's why I said
Well, they nourish and the root dip all the way through veg, like he said, because even when you're veg and you're building that root mass, you want to get somewhat root
pushing the
out.
roots.
And then when you transplant, you still want to grow some root into that pot, but then start to focus up. You don't want the root growth to die off at beginning veg.
Right.
Or if you reconstitute your soil indoor and out, you're thinking the same thing. You want to keep that cycle going.
You gotta keep those, whatever, blame on that.
Oh, speaking of which, when you do reconstitute your soil, would you add any of that in there?
Yeah, I mean, you're redoing, reconstituting your soil, you want to replace everything you've lost. Adding like Photo Plus back in there right away, I mean, to an extent, it'll help break down any kind of,
Because I use bokashi.
yeah, like organic matter that's in there, but, yeah, it's all gonna, you're gonna restore everything. Certainly, you know, the Nourish, being such a rich source of humic and fulvic and carbon, and the other elements are gonna help rebuild everything that you've lost over the season.
So you put that in that right away and then let it sit for a month under a tarp?
I would with this, absolutely. And you can add some of the Photo Plus too. I think you'll get some benefit from that also. But certainly the Nourish.
Thanks.
If you're doing a regeneration of your plant after harvest, what products do you want to use and what quantity would you recommend?
Again, the Photo Plus is probably going to be the best thing you can use.
And the root dip?
Yeah, that never hurts either, because that'll help
Stimulate the root system, okay.
But the Photo Plus, always go to Photo Plus. That's the key, really.
So a couple of months ago, there was a guy here at PhD that gave a presentation on
Robert Faust or Mike Amaranthus?
the one that had the microscope and everything.
Yeah, Dr. Mike Amaranthus.
Yeah, he said that introduction of mycorrhizal, or however the heck you pronounce it, for about the first 3 weeks of your growth cycle was all that was necessary in order to get it going. Now, if we introduce it on a weekly basis, how does that change it up?
Again, it's one of those things where you're not hurting anything by putting more in. And if you lose some over time, you're kind of rebuilding it, but you're not going to waste, or let's say you're not going to hurt anything.
It's not overkill?
No,
Okay.
you're only going to get as much as can be supported by the system.
It just sustains that amount,
Right.
rather than lets it fall off.
Right.
So there is a mycorrhizal content.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
How does that differ from, a lot of times we see mycorrhiza, we see a bag of dry.
Yeah, really, initially when we were doing it, there's a lot of people that said, oh, you can't keep it around in a liquid form, and we had to show that we could. The lab had to prove it, but really the benefit is we've already put it in the bottle. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. It's beneficial. You want it there. We add it into the mix. Do you need this and another one? Probably not, but yeah, I mean, it's really, mycorrhiza is basically mycorrhiza.
I guess we don't really know what's going on in our soil either, what happened or may have been, events that happened, so best to just keep going all the way through with something, especially when it's an affordable situation.
Yeah, we talk about stuff like washout, where you lose a certain amount of the bacteria, or maybe you pour something in and wipe out some of the biofilms and they have to rebuild. So by continuing to use it, you're keeping it at a certain level. It's not going to go above where it can go.
Sure.
But you want to keep it from dropping, the levels from dropping back down.
So if you're using a soil like NFTG number 4, is that still beneficial because it comes with it in it?
It's different bacteria. So while some of this bacteria might already be in something, the photosynthetics aren't going to be there. And they're what's really tying it all together.
Right.
Yeah, so it's always beneficial.
Coco Coir Rockwool, how does it work with that as far as the media?
It works fine. When we say any media, we mean any media. In fact, some of the earliest people, I was talking to someone earlier about, in Florida, we can't grow cannabis. We can't really test in our facility on the plants. So we rely on some growers that we work with where we'll send product out. So early on when we were putting this together, we had some growers who were using product before we even had really a concept for what we wanted to put out. We're using some of our commercial products for ag. And one of the earliest guys who had the greatest success was growing in cocoa. So some of our earliest data came from cocoa. So it works fine, but any media, it doesn't matter what the media is, you'll get some benefit.
The process of bottling is told that is basically performed under grow lights for a period of 6 days.
Yes.
Can you explain that briefly?
So we talked about this a little bit before. The bacteria, the water, the bacteria, the growth media, the stuff, that slimy stuff you see in there, it's all put in the bottle. The bottle is sealed, they go on racks. It gets pushed into, I don't know if you can bring that webpage back up, there's actually a picture of the grow room. You might have to back up a page, it's not coming from the
They
picture.
could shut the TV off.
So they get put on racks and they go into a room under intense light. It looks like a grow room, but I mean, it's heavy duty lighting in there. And the lights activate the bacteria because it's photosynthetic, like a plant. So it reacts to the light, it starts to grow, the fermentation takes 6 days under those intense lights.
Then where you put it?
So it's an incubation process?
And then it gets labeled and it's a fermentation process. So it gets labeled and it goes into boxes, and then once it's active, it can sit in the dark. It might fade in color, but it will,
So what's the preferred method of storage, like in my facility?
Keep it in your house.
Dark or
you don't want to keep it in direct sunlight because you don't want to overheat it.
grow light?
But it's fine. It can handle. Here's the lab. Where's the other? What's the back of the page? One second. It can handle. If it freezes, it's not a problem.
Just don't want it to get too hot.
You don't want to get it over, let's say, 119, 120 degrees for an extended period of time.
Okay.
It's doing the thing. I'm going to go back a page. Yeah. We can get back to the previous page, and there's a picture of the.
Yeah, we're done.
Too far here.
Yeah, 1 second.
Uh-oh, you reached the end of the
Okay, hey, all right, so I don't even went back a page. Is that the right page?
No, let me see if I can get to the.
Okay.
Let's see what's at the top of this page.
No electronics for Bob.
Not really my thing.
I was picking on you.
You know, really, talking and backing up.
It just kind of fretzels out, it does something weird. I'm surprised they let you use a computer at work.
I'm
You got a
surprised
typewriter
too.
up there?
I can talk, and I'm pretty good at backing a car up. That is really about all I can do well.
So I don't know, we didn't check the web route, we didn't check the
Just so use the backup
The
camera.
pepper room looks pretty good.
Yeah.
That is purely this. I know nothing of growing except I throw all that stuff on there, and everyone that comes in, I say, what do you think about peppers? And whatever they tell me, I do.
Okay, let's see if this is the page. There's the lab. I'm sure this is thrilling if you're watching this online right now.
Yeah. Riveting. This is like the OJ trial. Is everyone just
Somewhere on
watching
there,
this? They
yeah.
don't remember where they were when we were scrolling across the screen.
Because we don't have the top of
If the bacteria fits, you must.
There's actually, if you go to ecologicallabs.com, which is our corporate website, you can see pictures of the grow room, and the production lines, and but yeah, so it goes under the light and it grows under there for 6 days before we label it, box it, and ship it. It's not filtered. A lot of products that are primarily bacillus, it's mixed in a big vat, and then they take it and they dilute it out and they pour it out. This is all concentrated and grown in the bottle. In these products that have some of the Photo Plus, it's mixed. It's a little bit different process, but for just the pure bacteria, it's all fermented and stays in that bottle until it ships.
Is there a reason these are in the black bottle and those are in the clear bottle?
Because these are fermented under light, and those because black is really cute on a bottle.
Nice. It's slimming.
It could have been a white bottle.
I got you.
It wouldn't have been a clear bottle.
This needs to have a light.
Yeah, and then in that, because it's blended and you have like some other carbon sources and things like that, it's fine in there. But for this bottle, it has to be done in there.
So in my cloner, at what stage of root development would you add root dip?
Like as soon as you fire it up, just let it spray.
Doesn't gunk it up? Because doesn't that have molasses or something?
No, there's no molasses in there. There's some humic in there,
I had SLF to mine, I don't see a ball there.
I add you did too.
Yeah, but it's.
He didn't send it. You know, we're gonna get an eye on
We
you.
haven't had anybody complain about it clogging up if you just dilute it out at the normal rate, but you play with it so it's thin enough.
How long it's recirculating there? How long would you want to change that out, or is it gonna be?
You know, that's, with the root tip, you know, it's circulating in there, it'll be fine. If you're gonna change out the water, just change it when you change out the water. You know?
Yeah.
Well, I've just been putting it in once I see the roots start to develop.
Yeah.
Now I have a question. That is fermented. So if you're doing your own fermentation of, let's say, comfrey needle, horsetail, you can use that to help ferment the process?
It should help with that, yeah.
I use a root dip in my clone machine and it's,
Right, it goes right through.
yeah.
it works for
And you do that right from the start?
Yeah.
First time, first out?
I had the 5-gallon bucket cloner, they said, oh, here, that's what I use, and I use the root dip, and again, if I overdose a little bit, if I started to notice a little gunk or a little dark too much, I just put a little more SLF in and cleans it right up, you know.
Yeah, the enzymes.
They grow like rapid, so.
Now, is there any kind of wetting agent to help stick, or should you add yucca?
There were some, you know, there are people that will use yucca, but you don't really need it. You don't need the wetting
It's
agent.
all self-sufficient.
Yeah.
It does its own thing there.
And it gets used pretty quickly. I mean, it really goes to work fast.
Photo absorbs in how long?
You'll find it systemic within 45 minutes. So if you watered it in at the root and you took a leaf cutting and you know did some DNA sequencing, you'd find it there already 45 minutes later.
So if you were using a wetting agent, maybe you might stay on there longer, you get some burning, that kind of thing, better than use it without it?
Yeah, I would say use it without it. I mean, I know people that use it with some yucca and have never had a problem.
I use it,
Yeah.
I just want it for in general.
Yeah.
Personally, I have never seen an issue. I use yucca every time I spray it, so.
You know.
Any other questions?